Hi, it's Paulie here. So, I was looking at some World War II rules that someone had done, and they looked rather brilliant. But then I found out the same designer had done a role-playing game, which I took a look at, and oh my god, this thing is a delight. So, it's called Rock Opera 79! And I just had to share a superb piece of work. You'll find it as a PDF on drive-thru. This is a rock opera role-playing game. So the basic idea essentially is that you will be playing rock musicians. The group will be a band, but you might also, you're a band and a group, but you're kind of rivals. And you're in this ridiculous, wonderful rock opera world, and you'll be doing rock battles, yeah! And there's some incredibly clever game mechanisms. This not your ordinary game. Absolutely worth looking at. But this, oh my god, it's got echoes of Demolition Man, it's got echoes of rock and roll, it's got echoes of every crazy Bowie album. Spiders from Mars. This is kind of the glorious insanity of those those 70s rock operas. So it's a beautiful piece of world design. What the creator has done is he's made a world that works within this kind of setting so well. Bits of it that I can't give away, essentially. I don't want to completely spoil it, but there's been a massive atomic war, and so a mighty city arose, and it's mostly atomic wasteland out there. Yes, there are mutants and all that cool stuff. Everything that you'd expect from a heavy metal magazine is out there. And it's the Mad Max wastelands, but there was this kind of utopian-esque city was made, which had farming and so on, which looked after itself, and it was ruled by Sybil, a computer that was there to make everything run and everything logical, and it would just look after the citizens, and all would be hunky-dory. They did some space exploration, and heading off to trying to reach Mars and so on. The pilot of this, inevitably, Major Tom, he hit a strange energy barrier, the Elysian field, and this basically transmits freedom, creativity, and joy, essentially. And he was just absolutely bewitched by it, and he returned to Earth, and he began to sort of proselytize this amazing thing. He just couldn't get in touch with it. He couldn't explain to anyone how amazing it was. But then they found that in this perfect kind of rather dull world that Sybil had made, there were some people who were kind of quietly rebelling, and they had come up with this new type of music, and the music directly channeled the field. Rock music, essentially, channeled the field. It rocked you like the field rocks you. So these little bars started up where people were playing, and different styles came out, and the Major was kind of pushing this stuff along and having a great time, and a rebellious movement began, wanting to turn off Sybil and get the whole place sort of kind of chaotic and creative again. Sybil essentially orchestrated a suppression of these people, using all of its automated resources. So started attacking them with dump trucks and robot waiters, and huge fight occurred, and rock kind of ended up going underground. Sybil then decided to change the way that she ran society. So there's a structured society now. There's an upper city and a lower city. Rock still exists in the lower city, which is a lot of it's kind of ruined and crappy now due to the civil wars, but Sybil decided to try and make a type of music that would placate the people, and she found it. It's disco, which is it stands for discordant. It basically it keeps people in place. It gives disco gives people a sense of euphoria and joy, and it's also addictive. It channels kind of a broken part of this field. Discotheques were set up with this, where the government approved disco music could be played, and the upper citizens can go to these. But if you don't kind of toe the government line, then your disco privileges tend to get revoked. And because it's addictive, people who have been doing disco, if they're shut out from disco, then they start to become crazy, agitated and violent because they don't know how to handle these negative feelings that they're now having, because the rest of the upper city is spent in disco bliss. This is where kind of the thing starts to get sort of interesting, because Sybil suddenly disappeared. A cabal of essentially crime lords have taken over, and they run this section, Alpha City, which is, you know, up above the cool zone, and they just run the place. But it's now full dystopia. There's things that people don't really realise. Spoiler alert, the alphas essentially can download their minds into other bodies. They kind of brainwipe people and take over their bodies. So these guys are immortal, and they're running this place, and they're often keeping groups pitted against each other for their own ends. But they can download themselves into bodies and actually be in the lower city. You might not know. There might be one of the guys who, you know, evil masters who runs the place. The senior one is, of course, the man. So what's happened is now the underground people who've realised that this dystopia has taken over, and they suspect that the alphas of this horrible parasitic overclass, well, ideally, from the underground lords of rock, eventually heroes must arise who will fight the man and, you know, overturn disco in the name of rock and roll. And so here is your over theme. There are some really nice kind of sub themes and hidden secrets worked all the way through this, such as previous civilizations on Mars, previous civilizations on Earth, the secrets of, you know, who are the alphas, where do the alphas come from, what's happened to Sybil, is she still there? It sounds like she was having second thoughts. Did these bad guys turn her off because she was actually going to start running the place properly, and she'd realised she'd made a mistake with disco, etc. The people who live up in the disco area, they are they're being preyed on by the alphas who, like, yeah, use their kind of disco trained fit bodies to you know, use as hosts. So anyway, that is kind of the fun of it. You can ride through the mutant wastelands, you can fight Mad Max battles, you can do all sorts of things. There's two streams of kind of cool conflict that they've done in this over and above the normal that you'll see in a role-playing game. The rock battles is one of them. And the other is essentially chase battles, because, you know, riding your motorcycle through the wilderness and, you know, racing and outrunning cannibal mobs in their amazing Mad Max machines. This is also kind of important to the background kind of heavy metal-y geist of the whole thing. So, reeling back, as you create a character, you choose what kind of rock tribe you come from, man. You could be one of the prog rockers, you could be one of the heavy metal people, you could be one of the funk tribe. These give you a set of basic moves that you can do. And you can also pick some other moves. Now, when you are engaged in rock battles and so on, as you gain fans and so on, which is essentially experience, you can begin to get more moves. If you have hung out with people who have different, you know, music backgrounds to you, you can try and take moves that come from outside of your normal background. Or you can swipe cool moves that you've seen used against you. So as you gain experience fighting against, you know, now up against the punk rockers and whatever, you can start stealing some punk moves. Now these moves are like rocking out, going mellow, all these sorts of things. You can also start to do things like get special effects, smoke machines, spotlights, laser effects, these sorts of things will get you something in a rock battle, and you can pre-program your pedals. So it's like, yeah, suddenly we're pre-programming this to go metal. Suddenly we got the wah-wah pedal. Hilarious stuff. You gain fans as you start going up to higher levels of experience. You can also gain special fans that stay with you as entourage, and these all get you something. So you can get like astrologers and so on in your entourage. They can look a little bit in the future and warn you of things. You can get groupies. They help remove stress and help heal you. You can get ones that act as bodyguards, ones that act as scouts, ones that act as you know, healers and drivers and creators. And so it's your entourage is kind of cool. You got to keep the entourage happy though. But the core mechanism for the rock battles is a scream. So you've got the umpire. He's got the mix board where he's keeping track of the NPCs that you're fighting. The players, however, you've got your sheets and you've got set spaces on your sheets for stacking. A player does a move, the NPCs do a move. The next player does a move, the NPCs do a move. It goes back and forth until everyone has had their shot. When you're doing a move, you pick one of the things that you can do, one of these moves that you've taken. They've all got very specific aims and goals, things that they will do to the opponents if you succeed in some, but a lot of it comes from stacking. Yes, not dice rolling, dice stacking. You'll need a butt ton of dice, and you'll need a huge pile of tokens, preferably something like poker chips. These go in the middle and these represent fans. As you do cool stuff, fans at this concert will come to you. You've started to gain a fandom because you're rocking out and you're making these other guys look like idiots. But as you do moves and draw on powers and so on, you're stacking dice one on top of the other to make a tower. As you do certain moves, the damage that you do or the defense that you have will go off how high your tower is. But if you screw it up and the tower falls over because you've stacked it too high, that's feedback and that causes you damage. Those falling dice, because you've got set areas where you set up, they might hit the towers made by the other players and knock them over. Yeah, that's cascading feedback. So you can actually spread chaos through the whole band by pushing it too far. But there are other moves that as you win stuff off the other side as you beat them, instead of increasing your stack, you can pass that across to other people, and so the group as an aggregate is getting better. But if you're showboating and stacking it high, sure, you get stuff and you get a lot of cool stuff yourself, but you're risking kind of ruining it. But it's like, yeah, man, I'm going. And your characteristics are great. They're all your mojo and your heart and all these cool sort of terms. So look out, yeah, that's it. We're backs against the wall. I'm going to completely rock out. No, your voice can't take it, man. Your voice can't take it. I'll go, mate. I'll go do it for the music. Quick, stack that thing higher, crash. Hilarious. The chasers are done the same way. As you perform stunts and so on, you pile up these dice and crash. You pushed it too far. But there is kind of the game splits into different moments. There's the battle moments when you play these. The normal kind of what you think of as normal role-playing, the story section, because this is a rock opera, that's libretto. So you move into libretto play when you're doing the storytelling, the adventuring, the making contacts, you're doing stuff. That, again, no real dice rolls involved. What you're doing is, as the story goes on, as you attempt something, the umpire knows the difficulty of a task. As someone is telling you that, yeah, okay, so now I'm going to convince these people, join with me, mates, and we can overthrow these mutants, and then we can take the fight to the man. That sounds like a charisma thing. You're trying to essentially use that particular characteristic. Yeah, all right. So you can throw the weight of your fans behind this and kind of carry the message. And you can also kind of reduce some of your characteristics, burn them down to throw more into it. If this beats the difficulty, then you win. But you don't know what the difficulty is when you start. You can keep going and keep trying to burn more resources to do it. But it's not really a dice roll thing, which is kind of cool. There are a number of adventures in this adorable little document, which kind of introduces you into the style of play. So that Undercity has got old ruined theme parks, and it's got old kind of carnivals under there, and it's got old opera houses, and there's also some cool things like this. There are different places, arenas and things where you have your rock battles and try and get your fans and so on. So the high-tech guys have got mandroids as their servants and whatever. So there's a rogue mandroid running around who runs one of these arenas. He's silver, so he always wears a top hat and has a monocle. He's the Tin Sir. He's got basically a giant floating circular arena that you can get into. Yes, it's Tin Sir's floating disc. And this sort of thing. There is a giant atomic bus, which is the size of a huge cruise ship, which can't stop. Because if it does, it'll blow up. But there's an eternal kind of rock concert on this thing. You can jump onto it, and people leap onto this thing, and it heads through the wilds and whatever. And it's a great place for doing yet more concerts. There's, you know, creepy places, there's punk bars, there's whole underground worlds. He's created all of these different areas. Some of them have got secret hidden sections. A lot of the actual working kind of guts of the upper city, the things that make the food, that make it run, the actual citizens don't even know it's there because all their places are linked with teleportation pads, so they don't even really know where everything is in conjunction with everything else, because you just step on these things and go there. But there's this kind of warren in between of the actual guts of the place, and of course there are places where you can hide out as the mighty freedom fighters. You know, you can actually crawl through these places, you can find your own refuges. The upper city, of course, has a giant spire which has a giant ball on top, and yeah, that's where the witch balls come. Of course, the Lords of Disco, they spy on you with their mobile mirror balls, which roam through the streets finding things, so you've got to watch out for the mirror balls. You've got to watch it too, because like they have... sometimes you'll have these kind of air rafts will go overhead and they'll spray like a fog, a euphoric fog. You get caught by those things, and essentially they send their angels down. The disco angels come down and start talking to you about, look, this is such a terrible life you're living, and like, why don't you just let us look after you for a while, and they'll heal your wounds, and you know, you can eat there for free, and they look after you, and then you get some free rides in this carousel called the Mood Ring, which just gets rid of all that anger and all that stress and frustration, and next thing you know, you got flares and an afro and you're dancing around in the lights in a disco. What the hell happened to me? Oh no! You've been pulled in with disco! Oh, the shame! Quick, you got to break out of disco land while I send the man-bots and the witch balls and the robots after you. This thing's an absolute scream. So look, it's a beautiful piece of world design. Somehow this guy managed to do it. He made a workable adventure environment in a premise that really is too stupid to survive, but it does. And of course, as you meet people, bad guys and everything, they're going to try and overcome you with their music. Now, one of the things they do tell you is, as you make a character, you should queue up your favorite, you know, rock anthems and this sort of stuff, because when you win, when you overturn foes and so on in your rock battles, you get the right to basically play, you know, 30 seconds of, you know, your favourite rock album. However, if the umpire wins, they tell the umpire to queue up the most insipid disco tunes they can. If you lose to the umpire, you have to suffer. You have to suffer a minute of bad disco and all these sorts of things. People are encouraged to turn up with, you know, bits of rag tied around their heads or punk gear or whatever. I think this is a great convention game, but I think this is actually a thoroughly playable campaign game. It really is. Go take a look at it. It's, Rock Opera 79, a little tiny slice of genius. To the designer, well done. To you guys, please go and take a look. This thing absolutely rocks. All right, cheers. If you like the videos, yeah, like, subscribe, find me on Patreon. Cheers.